Buccaneer Amos, yes.
And the vote is open. And the vote is closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda is adopted. I'll make a motion to approve our last meeting's minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh. Motion by Westmoreland, second by Amos.
The vote is open. And the vote is closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays. The minutes are approved. Next up is public comment. I do not have the list. Do you have access to it?
We have 5 people signed up. One moment.
Sure. In the meantime, we have been joined by Councilmember Michael Bunn. Yeah, Liliana stuff is. All right, first speaker is Devin Barrington Ward, though I do not see him, so we will move on to Ms. Jordan and then come back if Mr. Ward joins us.
Giving unto the Spirit of God to everyone that's here. Thou lovest righteousness and hatest wickedness. Therefore God, thy God, hath anointed thee with the oil of gladness above thy fellows. Psalms 45th chapter, 7th verse. The psalm contains thanksgiving for the Lord's deliverance. I seek Jesus' righteousness for his deliverance from those who work wickedness. If you seek wickedness, you ask for God's punishment, James, grief, or death. Let him that sows steal no more, but rather let him labor, working with his hands, the thing which is good, that he may have to give to him that needeth. Ephesians 4th chapter 28th verse. Theft is to be replaced by honest work, in order that one may have the means to meet the needs of others. And he said unto him, Thus saith the Lord, for much as thou hast sent messengers to inquire of Beelzebub, the god of Ekron, it's not because there is no God in Israel to inquire of his word. Therefore thou shalt not come down off that bed on which thou art gone up, but shalt surely die. 2 Kings 1st chapter 16 verse. The word inquire is usually reserved for the consulting of an oracle. Apparently Baal was uniquely the cult god of Ekron. God can destroy Satan, and Satan cannot destroy God. And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burn in their lust one toward another, men with men working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was meet. Romans 1st chapter 27 verse. God gave them up. This is not permissive. God lets them do what they want to do, or private. God withdraws his gracious help. It is judicial. We will have no help against Russia from Jesus because of our sins. God made us. We didn't create ourselves. That's when we need Jesus Christ. Our power is limited. Christ's power is unlimited. That's when I want to be like Christ and seek to fight to be what he says to be. To fight against danger that the devil has for us.
Thank you, Ms. Jordan. Next up, Brother Muhammad. It's good to see you back.
Well, when the clip come off here, I want to put it back on and I'll begin second. like to be undressed. Mr. Bond, you like to kick the rear. I am that I am, an ancient ancestor. I do not believe in the Roman Catholic Church religion no more. From your scriptures, Genesis to Revelation, not one person or one human person was born from a woman womb. Might I make that hotel? My concerns today in this Community Development and Human Resource Committee is why is it that we are not getting support for the people that you see on the news that need economic training? When you see the people being said by the Morris Dig and China Fire that they are being misrepresented in the jailhouse, you got people in the jail beating on people and they call them mothers, they have to get money to pay. Why is that? Morris Dig, China Fire. I say today, this is the reason. The year is 1712 in Jamestown, Virginia. Mr. Willie Lynch said to them plantation owners, I got a way to keep the indigenous dark people in control and divided by the majority citizenry at that time by means that will last for 1,000 years. Now, that's been over 104 years ago. 104 years ago, we had, in 1816, the Gullah Wars. We had Mr. Andrew Jackson, the general. He killed dark indigenous people, women and children. Why is I'm going here? Committee, council, human development. You know, we have a Democratic race today, and I'm very proud we have Mr. Mayor Dickerson, Miss Stacey Abrams. But Stacey made a comment that I was so much pleased to hear, because I don't hear from people. And Stacey Abrams said, Georgia, the state of Georgia that we're living in, is one of the worst states in the United States of America. But when did the Democrat Party get started? The Democrat Party got started in the 1820s. In 1827 to 1829 and 1837, you had this same man, Andrew Jackson, who said, I don't have no love for the darker hued peoples in that time. And the Democrat Party still don't have the love for the Democrat Party members that look like me, Mr. Martin, Mr. Westmoreland. Because you know, Mr. Westmoreland, we talk about how you came in and made comments that I was very pleased on Channel 2. Atlanta returned $1.3 million in unspent workforce development money. Even Miss Shirley Franklin bring all these politicians online. Mr. Dickerson told me he's going to put money in transportation to pave the road in Butler, but he did not do that. And we still hadn't done it. And I'm keeping coming down. I was told by one of the legislators this morning, if you got legislation passed, Mr. Bond, and y'all have vetted for it, it should be appropriation made available. So I'm going to come back and talk to y'all tomorrow in the Transportation Committee, because I think somebody lying. And I'm not one of them really rich people. I'd make you out hotel. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, sir. We will see you tomorrow. Next up is J. Lawrence Miller, followed by Matthew Garbett.
Afternoon, council members. I'm not sure if this is the time. I came to speak about a amendment for. Is it now the time for that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My name is J. Lawrence Miller. I am the president of Medea Park Today in Southwest Atlanta. Coming up on your agenda is a change in the CDP for 840 Woodrow is the way we refer to that particular property. Right now it's zoned industrial, and the applicant is going to be looking for the zoning to be changed to MRC2, MRMU, and MRC2, and strongly recommending against that. The City of Atlanta is losing a lot of industrial properties. And with that loss of industrial properties comes the potential loss of higher paying jobs. This is important. An example for me would be when I was 15, I worked in the factory. I'm from New York. I worked in the factory. During the summer, I worked 35 hours a week. At 15, my mother worked for J.C. Penney's as a salesperson. And during the summer, my take-home paycheck was higher than hers because I worked in the industrial field. There's a reason why the city has adopted the CDP and has allowed it to show that industrial properties, if they're going to be rezoned, should be rezoned within the CDP to IMEX and not to anything else. The loss of these industrial properties is the loss of potentially hundreds of dollars, potentially the jobs. Now, in Southwest Atlanta, we don't have a lot of jobs coming up, not of industrial entities showing up there. And part of that is because of the reputation of Southwest Atlanta. Crime happens in Buckhead, which is higher than it is in this neighborhood, Oakland City. But you'll hear the neighborhood Buckhead and not the neighborhood Oakland City. So the reputation is that the crime rate is so high, and that's keeping people from businesses from wanting to move in that area. We suggest, strongly suggest, and NPUS voted in favor, or voted against changing the zoning for this property. The Land Use Committee Chair could not be here for NPUS, could not be here today because she had to work, but she wanted to make sure that we shared with you their position, which is housing is important, but jobs are equally important. And with the coming online of Murphy Crossing at the end of the summer, there will be hundreds and hundreds of new affordable, probably a 60% AMI for those housing units. But we're not going to be able to get the jobs. It's important that this property remain as an industrial property. It's not going to stay empty for years. All of Southwest Atlanta is growing. I'm also the chair of the Murphy Crossing Coalition, which has worked hand in hand with Atlanta Beltline, Inc. in order to ensure that the developer that's chosen is someone who's going to work with the neighborhoods and with the communities. I know my time is up, but I just want to strongly encourage you, please reject the change in the CDP. It's not necessary. We need the industrial jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up, and our final speaker is Matthew Garbett.
Wants a copy. I'm going to try to keep that down to 3 minutes. My name is Matt Garbett. I co-founded Thread ATL. I manage a local independent grocery store, and I'm the land use chair for Adair Park. I'm going to try to keep this very brief. I want to talk about 840 Woodrow and MRC and IMEX, and I'll try to give you the brief history. Atlanta introduced MRC, the mixed residential commercial zoning, in 2002. The point was to create a diversified city where people across the spectrum of age, income, ethnicity, and culture can live, work, shop, meet, and play. Legislation opened the door, in theory, to mixed-use developments, but there was a problem. So we rezoned. I was president of Fourth Ward Neighbors back then, and we rezoned a lot of industrial to MRC. I was at all those meetings. And it quickly turned out that there was a problem. We were getting the MRC and we were getting development, but we were losing the industrial opportunities. So in 2016, the Comprehensive Development Plan recommended preserving existing industrial uses for the 21st century. So that was included in 2016. So they followed up, and in 2018, the city introduced IMEX. Why the industrial sector, this is from y'all's legislation, why the industrial sector is an important part of Atlanta's economy. It needs to be encouraged to continue because Atlanta is considered to be one of the major inland ports in the USA. Over the last 10 years, Atlanta has experienced a significant loss of industrial zoned property as properties designated for mixed use and multifamily purposes have experienced a significant increase. In an effort to support the industrial sector, the City of Atlanta's 2016 Comprehensive Development Plan recommends developing a mixed use industrial district that will allow for industrial and residential. So the problem was previously that I-1, I-2, I-3 did not allow for residential. So IMEX was created so we could preserve. 2019, the city passed IMEX, saying the intent of this chapter in establishing the IMEX district is as follows: to permit a mix of industrial and non-industrial uses in areas previously used for industrial only. Essentially, Atlanta was bleeding the opportunity for industrial jobs. IMEX seeks to address that and preserve that. And once we continue to lose these industrial opportunities, they are gone forever. Only I and MRC3 can be rezoned back to IMEX to allow for these things. I live around the corner from this location, and I know that it's been vacant for years. That was because the area was neglected. Now the Beltline is there and people see the opportunity to make money off of increased rents. There have been negotiations to have increased commercial, but that does not replace the opportunity for increased industrial. There are organizations, Invest Atlanta is doing better, there are organizations around the country, Recast, that come to communities and help developers recruit industrial sites like food factories, things like that. The thing to do here now is not say, we recognize this is a problem in 2016. We passed legislation in 2019. We amended the CDP in 2021, 1 year ago, and to say, oh, well, let's just change. We need to change that, and we can work together with the developers and people like Recast and other organizations to recruit industrial. Let's not get impatient. Let's hold the course. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes. Yes, ma'am. Then we want to hear what you have to say. Please step up and say your name.
Thank you very much. Hi, my name is Anna Maria Hazard. I'm here representing Woodfield and Vita on the 840 Woodrow development. I passed on the presentation that was sent to for the CDP public hearing. I just wanted to go through it quickly. As was said before, 840 Woodrow is in the Oakland City neighborhood, District 12, NPUS. Currently the site is essentially a junkyard. It's a vacant site. If you look at this initial plan, December 2021, that's sort of where we started. It was 3 residential buildings with a lot of surface parking. We met with the neighborhood several times. If you look at the next slide, the public meetings and input over 6 months. I think we had close to 10 meetings with the neighborhood because they told us we didn't like your initial plan and we wanted to listen to what they wanted. So you'll see the next plan, which is this one, where there is an adaptive reuse of the existing building on site. There are townhomes, there are live-work units, there are commercial spaces. If you look at the C4 and C3, those are meant to be smaller commercial spaces with more affordable rents. Also, this is in the Beltline overlay, so we're exceeding the 80% and 15% AMI, and we're doing 80% AMI. 20% of the units will be 80% AMI. 5 of those units we're going to apply for a grant from Invest Atlanta to allow for those with tenant-based vouchers to live there. And you'll see, if you look at this chart, in working with the neighborhood, we came up with a lot of conditions because we heard them that they wanted jobs, they wanted industrial uses. And so what we were able to do through the conditions is to provide those uses by condition. So the only uses that you will not see on our conditions on the right side of the page are microbreweries, because Oakland City told us they didn't want them, distribution and warehousing. Everything else that is present in IMIX is present here via condition. It's a requirement to have those. We also condition the concurrency rule that's present in IMIX, so we cannot get a CO for any of the residential units until we get a CO for one of these light industrial uses. And then there's the screening requirement that's in IMIX that's also here via condition. This was voted for recommendation of approval by Oakland City. We've been working a lot with Councilmember Lewis in District 12 to make sure that we have something that he can be proud of. The MPU vote was very close. It was 13 to 11. And we feel like we've worked really hard with the neighborhood to come up with a product that will be beneficial for the neighborhood and for the city as a whole. And so we just respectfully ask that you approve this CDP amendment. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. That concludes public comment. Colleagues, without any objection, I'd like to we have 3 communications around appointments for individuals who are here. And so before we move into our 2 presentations, I would like to sound items 21, 23, and 27 separately. So if we can start with number 21.
Item number 21, 22C 5082, a communication from Mayor Andre Dickens appointing Mr. Douglas Hooker to serve as a member of the Atlanta Housing Authority Board of Commissioners for the City of Atlanta. This appointment is for a term of 5 years.
Mr. Hooker, if you would come forward and introduce yourself to those of us who might not know you.
Thank you, Councilman Westmoreland, and council members. Very happy to be here, and thank you for your consideration of my appointment. I recently stepped down, retired as the Executive Director of the Atlanta Regional Commission after years of being involved not only in the region but in the city itself. early in my career as the Commissioner of Public Works for the city, leading up to and through the Olympic Games. I've worked in the private sector as well as a professional engineer. Have always been interested in the good and the well-being of this city and its residents. I am myself a resident of Southwest Atlanta in the Cascade Park subdivision, and very interested. The mayor asked me if I would do this, and I said I would do whatever he thought I could do to help his administration and this city continue to be successful and move forward. So he asked me if I would consider this role subject to your approval. So,
Thank you, sir. Questions or comments?
Move approval.
Motion by Bond, second by Amos. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. And the vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Thank you, sir.
thank you all very much.
Item 23.
Item number 23 is 22C5083, a communication from Councilmember Alex Wan, District 6, appointing Mr. William Baker to serve as a member of the Pedestrian and Bicycle Planning Commission.
Mr. Baker. Ooh, plot twist. No, Mr. Baker? All right, motion to hold.
Second.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Ms. Bakhtiari.
There you go.
Good chat. Is Mr. Martin here? Jeffrey Martin? Okay, there we go. Thank you. Item number 27.
Item number 27 is 22C5091, a communication from Council President Doug Shipman appointing Mr. Jeffrey Martin to serve on the Atlanta Beltline Tax Allocation District Advisory Committee. This appointment is for a term of 2 years.
You come forward and introduce yourself as well, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeffrey Martin, and I would like to thank City Council President Doug Shipman for his trust in appointing me as a member of the Beltline TAD Committee, and also the fellow City Council members for your time and consideration today. I am the managing partner of En Route Agricultural Management Cooperative here in Atlanta, Georgia. We focus on working with underutilized commercial property to bring established farmers into their spaces, to use our retrofitted equipment, training, and wraparound sales support to expand their businesses into indoor vertical farming. These regenerative techniques use 91% less water, don't use harmful pesticides, and are able to fetch our farmers a premium price with consumers, grocers, restaurants, and also just to overall increase their businesses by 3x revenue, being able to farm year-round. Over the next 5 years, we aim to have farmer members across Georgia, Michigan, Maryland, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. Our goal is to disrupt the broader food insecurity problem we are dealing with nationally, which costs us somewhere between $160 billion and $1.1 trillion, largely due to the impacts of systemic racism that have cost black farmers who have lost over $320 billion in land over the past 20th century. As an Atlanta native running an agricultural-focused real estate small business, I understand the role the Beltline provides to the ITP and OTP of our city of Atlanta. This is also why I believe my service with the TAG Committee will be integral in making improvements to the broader Office of Planning and Community Engagement, where TAG Committee plays a key advisory role for our mayor, City Hall, and ultimately, most importantly, our citizens. I aim to use this appointment to bring my skills, intentions, and deep experience across technology, finance, diversity, equity, accessibility, inclusion, strategy, and execution to bring more of an environmental, societal, governmental data focus and equity program evaluation to our work as it regards disrupting the impacts of food apartheid and climate change in the zip codes that we serve. Using tools like the EJ Screen or Environmental Justice Screening and Mapping tool developed by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, we'll be able to start to highlight work around the Beltline and be able to prioritize its greatest needs in terms of the equity solutions we work to develop and implement, and will improve our standings on these national assessments and quality of life for Atlanta citizens. If possible, I hope to support the Beltline TAG Committee in my capacities to find ways to further quantify our ESG impact and equality program evaluations for the city through my time with this appointment. Lastly, growing up in my neighborhood, most folks who went to school with me in the Eastlake area, their families no longer own their homes and have missed a huge opportunity at generational wealth due to gentrification and financial need. As a kid who also grew up in Thomasville Heights, where my grandmother lived, I feel this is getting ready to happen to those families too. I want to live in a city where Black, Indigenous, and people of color, LGBTQIA citizens, and those at the margins, especially those who are low income, like I started, are actually able to have a shot at home ownership, like the investors who do not live here and are seeking profit, not community. As our city continues to be developed, our inequality data continues to make top lists, like our burgeoning tech and Black startup founders list, and what they raised during the pandemic, just to kind of give you priorities. We have to change this urgently and immediately. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to engaging in service through this committee and with you all for the City of Atlanta. Thank you.
Well stated. Thank you for your willingness to serve. Ms. Bakhtiari.
Hey, Jeffrey.
Hello.
I just wanted to first go on record that I'm very bitter that Council President Shipman stole you from me before I could appoint you to all the committees I wanted to appoint you to, but also that we'd be extremely lucky to have you, and I move to approve.
Motion by Bakhtiari.
Second.
Second by Winston. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. And the vote is closed.
60 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you for your willingness to serve. We will hold our final communication later, as that person is also not here. Next up is presentations. We are going to flip the order and hear first from the United Way of Greater Atlanta about the Emergency Rental Assistance Program update. To be introduced by LaShondra Butler-Burks.
Good afternoon. LaShondra Burks, Deputy Chief Operating Officer for the City of Atlanta. Mr. Co-Chair and members of the CDHS Committee, first of all, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. During our last visit to this podium regarding United Way's Emergency Rental Assistance Program, where you all helped us commit an additional $21 million to emergency rental assistance. The request was to have United Way to come and present on the program itself. And so joining me today is Ms. Kristen McCullum, who is the CFO for United Way of Greater Atlanta, who will be presenting today, and I will also be with her if there are any additional questions for us.
Thank you much. Welcome, Ms. McCollum. It's good to meet you in person.
Good afternoon. Thank you, LaShondra, and good to meet you in person as well, council members. Happy to be here. Just wanted to say before I started, United Way of Greater Atlanta is super grateful to the City of Atlanta for entrusting us to administer the Emergency Rental Assistance Program dollars. And we hope we have made you proud and have helped over 10,000 residents in the City of Atlanta proper continue to stay in their housing. So as a highlight, I'll just touch on a few points. The Emergency Rental Assistance Program, or ERAP, as we call it, we do provide financial assistance to eligible households that have experienced a financial hardship directly or indirectly due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And this started back in August 2020 when we first started to administer the first round of the program. Households may receive help with eligible expenses when they complete an application online and submit documentation that demonstrates the financial hardship and the need for assistance. Primary way to apply was online and is online, but we also held many in-person events to help those that did not have access to a computer, mobile device, etc. Currently, households may receive up to 15 months of financial assistance, so it's 12 months in arrears and up to 3 months of prospective rent. And then eligible expenses include rent, relocation, which is the security deposit information, utilities, including internet as well, and then other fees like late fees, court filing costs, etc. So we have partnered with you guys to run this program. We have also engaged Curry Davis Consulting Group to administer the programmatic and compliance aspects of the program. Throughout the lifetime of the program, going back to August 2020, we have engaged with 24 local community-based organizations to help administer the program and get the funds out to those that applied and needed the funds the most. In our current $21 million program that we're administering that LaShondra mentioned, we are partnering with Another Chance of Atlanta, Buckhead Christian Ministries, Homes of Light, Housing Plus, Rebecca's Tent, and Urban League of Greater Atlanta. Throughout the lifespan of this program, going back to 2020, we have established many private partnerships to help these residents in the city, including a partnership with the Georgia Apartment Association. They have helped promote the program to their tenants. We partner with Columbia Residential Atlanta. They partner with them to do target enrollment events. Yeah, we are on, if you want to skip. There you go. We have worked with Atlanta Housing Authority to verify applicant voucher payments to ensure applicants are eligible. And we have worked with Georgia Power in terms of using their portal for direct payments for customers. So that made it seamless in terms of paying people's power bills. Overall results, as the CFO, this is my favorite page. We have provided close to $45 million in financial assistance to City of Atlanta residents, helping more than 10,500 households between August 2020 and June 20th, 2022. We hope to administer the remaining $21 million that we're administering now. We've only spent 2.6 of the $21 million. With an average payment per household of about $61.24. This last round, which is a reallocation of emergency rental assistance one program funding, this last round has been the most challenging. There aren't as many people that are qualifying for the assistance. They've already been helped in the past, and they've already reached that 15-month maximum. And it's also to prove harder to prove now indirect or direct hardship due to COVID. That was much easier at the very beginning of COVID than it is now. For the last 14 months, we have provided financial assistance to 3,600 households, and I'll just give you a snapshot of what those households represent. 75% of those households were at or below the 30% area median income level. 40% of the households had children. And 75% or 79% of the households with children were at or below the 30% AMI level. And on average, assistance was issued to the approved landlord or vendor within 30 days of submission of a completed application. I have a couple success stories here. We don't necessarily have to go over them, but just to highlight this first one, Jarvis. I can't read it because of the glare, so I'll flip to my screen. The lockdown back in, March, April, May 2020 made it difficult for him to find another job, and he didn't know if he would be able to pay his rent. When visiting a leasing office, the leasing office handed him a Housing Plus flyer for the COVID-19 assistance program, and after Jarvis completed the application through Housing Plus, he was able to get his rent supplemented, and it has helped him to stay in his apartment. And then this another success story here. Meet Sonia. Sonia is a single mother who had to leave her job during the pandemic due to health concerns. She stressed about making ends meet until she found Spark. They provided rental assistance, dropping off gift and fruit baskets, as well as settling Sonia and her daughter up with a Christmas sponsor. And thanks to Spark, Sonia and her daughter retained a bit of normalcy while remaining safe. Any questions from council members?
Thank you much. I figured Mr. Bond, start us off.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you for being here today in person to present and allow us the opportunity to ask questions about the program. I don't have a copy of the presentation, so I'll be kind of shooting from the hip with my question. But you say you've served about 10,000 people since 2020. How many people have applied versus how many people have helped?
That's a great question. Yeah. I'm going to ballpark this, council member, and I can get you exact numbers later if you would like. During the first round, I'm going to flip to the numbers here. There you go. During the first round, which was August 2020 to about March 2021, we assisted about 6,000 households. So in that first round, it was about a 40% run rate of applicants who applied that actually were assisted. So that's, I would call it 12,000 applied, roughly, and 6,000 were assisted. And then in subsequent rounds, the number of applications that actually qualified became less and less. So our current round, which is the reallocated funds from the Department of Treasury, our success rate right now is honestly less than 15% of those that are applying are actually qualifying. So I'll have to get you cumulative numbers, council member, but when you look at the numbers up there on the screen in terms of who was actually helped, you're probably looking at 20,000 overall applications throughout the life cycle, and then 10,000 helped.
But what are the things that would eliminate a person not qualifying?
Right. Well, they have to provide like a copy of their entire lease, not just like the front page. And so there was there's documentation issues. They had to have, they can only qualify right now for 12 months in arrears and 3 months perspective. And at this point in time, a lot of those people have already received that 15 months, because this has been going on since August 2020. And then proving COVID hardship is harder to prove.
So that's obviously a federal requirement.
Yes. So right now, in partnering with LaShondra and the team here, we have come up with a few, I would say, different things we could do within the federal guidelines that would make it easier for people to qualify. And so we're just running that through for LaShondra and Jerry right now, and the consulting group to see what we can do to make it easier for people to qualify.
Okay. Well, a lot of the concerns that I've had have been at the level of, I guess, the actual person for staffing, the call room. I want to thank the Dickens administration. They helped me to intervene on behalf of the person. We've been trying for 7 months to get a call back, and with their assistance, they were able to get a call back and, get some help. I mean, how are you all vetting or monitoring those who are directly interacting with those who are calling for help?
All right, well, everyone that we've hired through, a lot of these people are through temporary staffing agencies, whether they're working with the United Way team or with one of our 6 current partners. So, they have to meet the job description requirements, obviously, and background checks. And we have had instances where we have terminated staff members who just are not meeting our expectations. There are probably cases, like you said, where an applicant has fallen through the cracks, but I think on the whole, I would say a high majority of the applications that have gone through, that have initially applied online, have gotten through the process.
Well, I'm not going to monopolize the questions here today. I do appreciate your presentation, but I would like to get a copy of that information and speak with you in more detail away from this meeting.
Sure.
But
about the number that applied holistically.
Well, yeah, about the folks, how many people applied versus how many people actually help. What controls you have in place for the people who are actually taking the calls and dealing with the public. 'Cause I know that I've spoken with some of the folks on the Fulton County side, and they said that that's one of the biggest complaints that I've heard, is that some of the people that are fielding these calls aren't as responsive, or they can't get a response out of them.
Okay.
So they end up bouncing over there, and then Fulton County bounces them back, because Fulton County serves the areas, obviously, that are not City of Atlanta. So they, they're not going to do it. So just like to have more detailed conversation with you about it.
Okay, yeah, happy to do it.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. Any other questions or comments?
Hi.
Mr. Amos.
First of all, let me start with a thank you. I can imagine just how many calls you get from District 3. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Keep answering the phones. But realizing as much help that you do, you can't do it all. So when we get to a point that United Way, don't want to say you ever reach your limit, when you reach your limit, is there like another referral? Like, we may not be able to do it, but there's another partner in the consortium of care that you may be able to call. Because I don't want us to get to the point as a city that we're turning people away. So what does it look like, the process, when you have given everything you can give, that we're not telling anyone that is how do you refer someone to the next?
Yeah, great question. So thank you for your supportive program as well. I would say, hopefully LaShawna would agree, we love the partnership. And so, while this is round 4, and while I'm going to agree that it is, it is tiring at this point, we still want to be the go-to partner to help the residents of the city. That being said, we are partnering with 6 nonprofit partners right now, and it used to be 24, but we realized 24 was too large of a pot to manage. And so we are, distributing, the workload and expertise, so to speak, so that others in the city know how to run the program as well, if there's ever a need for that. So I think that's one avenue. If United Way wasn't, the top choice, we hope we would be. But our 211 contact center also can handle, honestly, any kind of call that comes in, or chat or email. And so they will refer, listen to the person and understand their need for help, and then refer them to the right nonprofit to provide that help. So in any non-COVID time, right, 211 would be the go-to first choice for someone that needs help. You're welcome.
Mr. Lewis.
And I'm just looking at the numbers, and the question I have is around, I see like the average payment per household went up per time. So is this, are these poor folk asking for that money, getting $6,000, or are these like the higher earners getting this money?
No, I think it's the former, because at the very beginning, when the pandemic was new, people weren't as behind on their rent. But now, fast forward now, over 2 years later, they do have 15 months of need. You know what I'm saying? So their average payment is higher because we're paying more months of rent.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. 2 from me. The 15-month limit is a federal requirement?
Yes.
And the deadline for us to
spend it, December 31, 2022.
Good deal. Thank you much.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Next up is our presentation from the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Good afternoon. John Dargle, Parks and Recreation Commissioner. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you our quarterly update. Today I'm joined by Deputy Commissioner Doug Voss, Director of Recreation Randall Davidson. I have Management Analyst Sabina Kasimova, as well as our Strategic Business Development Officer Gabriella Slade. Today we're going to go over a brief overview of some of our recreation services and programs spring and what we can anticipate for summer, as well as our pools, golf, tennis, ATL, Teen Leaders Program, our Camp Best Friends Program. We also like to introduce to you an update, a pre-launch update of our equity data tool from our 10-year comprehensive master plan, as well as give you a glimpse of our 5-year strategic plan dashboard and tracker. So at this time, I'll introduce you to Randall Davidson.
Good afternoon, committee members. I'm Randall Davidson, Director of Recreation for the City of Atlanta, and I'll be going over all of our programming updates. And so, let me get to the first slide. This first slide represents our spring programs, which encompass our track and field and baseball programs. And so for this spring, we actually had 483 participants and 37 baseball teams for ages 5 to 12-year-olds. We also had 77 participants ages 3 and 4-year-old for our TOTS program. For track and field, we had a total of 301 participants and 7 teams over multiple recreation centers. This next slide is our programming that we're currently in, which is our summer and fall programming, which is our football and cheerleading program. We've actually begun that registration process and anticipate our football program starting this August. along with cheerleading. Next slide is our Camp Best Friends program. So this is a program that, due to the pandemic, we actually had to streamline our registration numbers, but I'm happy to report that we're actually back to our normal registration numbers, and at this time we currently have over 2,200 participants registered for Camp Best Friends at over 24 locations throughout the city. We also have specialty camps at Coin Park, which is our therapeutics camp, and our athletics camp at Grant Park. Our theme for this summer was around the world, and what we wanted to do was to introduce our participants to different cultures throughout the world, different cultures, different foods, different just everything about those different cultures. And so the kids have been really engaged and enjoying this particular theme. We also have our day trips at Lake Allatoona, which is our overnight camp. We're currently not doing the overnight process, but we're doing what we call a day at the lake, where we allow our kids to go up for an entire day, and they get to participate in all of the activities at Lake Allatoona. And I'm also happy to report that we've reinitiated our senior programming at 4 locations throughout the city. We currently have senior summer camp programming at James Orange, Arthur Langford, Old Adamsville, and what's the 4th location? C.A. Scott. Okay, and this slide represents us bringing our seniors back. Our seniors are very excited, and we do anticipate on restarting our programs fully for our seniors this coming August for our fall programming. We're also continuing to feed our young people 2 meals a day for all ages 5 to 18 registered participants, and we also have that program that served 11 non-city of Atlanta locations throughout the city as well. After school programming. This slide represents our up-and-coming programming this fall, which we're anticipating on starting this August. And again, our numbers were modified due to COVID, but we've been given the authorization to resume our normal capacities, and that number should reflect around 2,000 participants registered at 18 locations this year. We also have 9 locations that are specific to our Atlanta Teen Leaders program. In our previous school year, we had 1,072 participants for after school and 263 for our Atlanta Teen Leaders program. This is our Summer Teen Initiative. This program basically speaks to all of the activities we have for our teens. One activity we have is our Atlanta Teens Leaders Junior Academy, which is housed at Central Park, where they participate in various activities: drone, music and film production, STEAM, debate, entrepreneurship, social media, healthy lifestyles, and workforce development. So we're developing our kids to prepare them for our regular summer programs in the future. We also have our Atlanta Teen Leaders Academy at Adams Park, which is a 7-week summer internship where our participants receive stipends, where they go to camp 2 days a week and they work 3 days a week, 18 hours a week. And we also hired 100 participants for that program. The Atlanta Teen Leaders Girls Empowerment Academy is at Zaban. This is an all-girls program that we offer at our Zaban Recreation Center. And we also want to highlight that we employed 165 teens ages 14 to 18 this summer as well, in addition to the Atlanta Teen Leaders program. And the final slide is our newest program, which is our Midnight Basketball program, which launched this March at C.T. Martin Recreation Center, where we had 10 teams and over 100 young men ages 18 to 25. And I'm happy to report, as of today, we have 200 participants and 20 teams registered, and we're going to launch our second season of Midnight Basketball starting tomorrow night at Roselle Fan at 7:30. So if you can join us, please come by. And at this time, I'll turn the presentation over to Mr. Doug Boss.
Good afternoon, members of council. Just wanted to go through 3 of our probably most popular summer programs, starting with swimming pools. As many of you know, we opened all of our splash pads on May 1st. That is still one of our most popular amenities. We probably can't build enough of them. There's actually a 7th one at Piedmont Park that is also included in that. On Memorial Day weekend, we opened our outdoor pools. They all remain totally free. thanks to the council administration. We have added, as we mentioned before, one post-certified and one private security officer at every pool. We've also added metal detectors at every pool, and we have security cameras at every pool. That is new for this season. For the indoor pools, we have continued to offer swimming both on a walk-up basis and reservations. That is one of the silver linings of COVID. We've actually learned that the reservation system has worked quite well on the indoor pools, but I know this council has asked about whether you can come, walk up, and pay, and the answer is yes, you can. We do try to make sure we have enough space, but we offer both. One of the most exciting things that have happened, I know Ramondo and I both agree to this, we have actually hired an aquatics director. Our department has not had a designated aquatics director since before COVID. That is an integral position for the department. It's been very hard to hire during COVID. His name is Marcus Bimes, and we are very excited to have him. The next slide is a little bit about our tennis program. Tennis is provided to our camp best friends through our Washington Park Swim and Tennis Camp. It is one of our most popular camps. This photo was taken just a few days ago. Out at that camp, it is almost nearly full for that camp. But I also wanted to express our appreciation of USTA Georgia. This council has approved legislation that allows us to do an apprentice program, which we currently offer at Bitsy Grant, at Sharon Lester, and at Joseph McGee for both youth and adults. It offers a package where you can get tennis lessons, a racket, and you can enroll in the leagues. We have been full since it went public, and every class has remained full. We're actually looking for additional instructors to continue to offer that program, and 2 teams have actually been formed out of Joseph McGee as a result of that program. So it's doing exactly what we hoped it would do. Pickleball, we have 2 sites that offer pickleball as round-robin play. That's at Washington Park and at Sharon Lester. We met with the pickleball ambassadors. There are pickleball ambassadors that are very passionate about this sport. We met with them last week about opportunities of how to grow pickleball in the city of Atlanta. And they were excellent to speak with, and Ramondo and myself and a number of us got a chance to talk to them just last week about that. Looking forward to continue working with them. We have published a monthly tennis newsletter to keep the public informed of what is going on at the tennis centers, and it also allows us an opportunity to talk about new programs and even improvements that we've done. We actually just resurfaced the 12 courts at Sharon Lester in June. And as those improvements continue, we try to make sure that the public is aware of the investments we're making in those centers. The next slide is on golf. Golf has experienced probably its best year since the city has taken over control in, I believe, 2016. Round over round, year over year, we're 15% up over last year. And what's really unique about that is that Browns Mill course has actually only been playing as a 9-hole course recently because we repaved all the cart paths and parking lot. And we're still 15% up overall, and we're 30% up in revenue. And a lot of that actually has been attributed to COVID as well. As people have to go online to pay and register, it's made that process easier and more efficient and effective. So golf is experiencing probably one of its best years that we have seen. Did want to mention just a few items with the Office of Parks Design. We have received exceptional notoriety recently with some of the projects they have done. Rodney Cook Park, there's a long list of awards they have won. Mosley Dog Park was actually a local one that actually was one of our latest dog parks at Mosley Dog Park. And Grant Park Gateway was actually recognized nationally to the U.S. Building Council as both a, I'm going to get this right, LEED Silver, Sites Gold, and Park Smart Bronze certification, which is the only facility of its kind in the world. And we were the first to do that. We appreciate the mayor and many council members coming out to recognize that about 2 weeks ago. With that, I'd like to turn the podium over to Sabina Kasimova, who's going to talk to you about our equity data tool, which is a tool that we developed as part of our Activate ATL plan. So, Sabina, click that button when you're ready.
Thank you, Doug. Good afternoon, council members. Hope you're all doing well today. So, I'm on my tippy toes. I am very excited today to be giving an announcement that we are gearing up to publicly launch the Equity Data Tool next week. So the DPR Equity Data Tool is an online interactive data-driven mapping tool, and it's especially tailored to Atlanta's parks and recreation. You may have first heard about the tool during the virtual public meetings for Activate ATL, our 10-year master plan. We first started developing the tool at that point to help guide the equitable implementation of the plan. We recently completed beta testing of the tool with several groups, and we're now getting the tool built into the Activate ATL website. That will go along with video tutorials, a methodology report, and other instructional materials. So a little bit more information about the tool. The DPR EDT will help to guide the prioritization of capital projects by allowing us to track 54 different data points, including physical conditions of parks and recreation centers, the amount of parkland within a geographic area, access to parks within a half a mile, historic capital funding amounts, community perception data, and a wide range of census community survey data on social determinants of health. All of the data is normalized and reassigned with a value on a scale of 1 to 5, so everything is standardized for analysis and mapping. And then we combine all of those scores to establish a total need score by site, so that parks and rec centers can then be ranked in order of greatest need. And these scores and rankings are based on point-in-time data that's evaluated on a continual basis, and it will be supplemented by on-the-ground review. And just to talk a little bit about how we'll use the tool, in addition to building a data hub, the tool will guide the department's discussion as we consider how to prioritize capital improvement projects and validate past projects through an equity lens. We'll also look at community need scores and health data to identify disparities and determine where to provide community support by expanding programming. We do hope that DPR won't be the only one using the tool. In addition to city departments and interested stakeholders exploring the wealth of data that's available and the wealth of information in the tool, for the public especially, the equity data tool could arm citizens with data as they advocate for their parks. And we look forward to using the DPR EDT to help create a more equitable parks and recreation system for the city of Atlanta. Please keep an eye out for the press release, e-newsletter, social media, and a lot of other outreach coming in the next week to promote it. Thank you all so much. With that, I'll pass it over to Gabrielle Slade to talk a little bit more about our strategic planning.
Thanks so much, Sabina. My name is Gabrielle Slade. I'm the Strategic Business Development Manager and CAPRA Accreditation Manager as well. All right. So the strategic plan, in February, the mayor approved our 5-year strategic plan from 2022 to 2026. It's a direct offshoot of the 10-year Activate master plan. And embodies the same mission and goals. It's just broken down the 10-year to what we foresee achievable in the next 3 to 5 years. We worked very closely. Next slide. This is a screenshot of the tracker. So all of the objectives and goals that are listed in the Activate ATL master plan that are also in the strategic plan are listed in a very comprehensive spreadsheet that we worked very closely with the Mayor's Office of Innovation and Performance. Majority of this tool is developed. We're probably in the last final development phase of it, and we're just very excited that we've taken quite a few weeks to go through every goal and objective specifically for this year and assign the division that will be responsible to implement and execute, the task manager, the project lead, and the team that we assembled. And so we're just really thrilled that we'll be able to track and monitor progress. Some other key sections of the tracker are the spreadsheet I just showed that lists the goals and objectives. We can sort and filter. We can sort by project lead and objective. We can sort by division. So we're just really happy to have it in one place to keep up with. It'll track financials so we can identify funding streams to fund certain projects, kind of forecast what the cost of projects will be, and and help leverage maybe some other funding from other sources. It's complete with KPIs. We can update the KPIs to show that we've actually achieved what we set out to do. And then there's the overall performance, project performance, that we're still, fine-tuning a little bit. But we're just very excited about being able to track, especially with our project leads, to help move and monitor the track on like a monthly basis. And another key feature is that we're making it accessible to many levels of departmental staff, so they're aware of what we're doing, the progress we made, and in real time tracking. So we will continue to work with our cross-departmentally with the Mayor's Office of Performance and Innovation to ensure the best utility and functionality of the spreadsheet, that we can best track and monitor our progress. And we have to remind ourselves that it's a 10-year plan that we've broken down to 3 to 5 years. So we really want to take advantage of this time to build out the best platform to execute and monitor our progress. That concludes for me.
Good deal. Thank you to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of you for the presentation. Colleagues, any questions or comments? Starting with Mr. Winston and then Mr. Bond. And then Mr. Amos.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, and thank you all for your great presentations. Just had a couple of questions. First, I just want to initial comment and commend you all for the great programming you've been doing this summer. It's great to see so many youth participating in a lot of the program that you have going on, and that's very commendable, especially as it ties into the mayor's goal of making sure that we're doing as much as possible to give our youth activities to do, and it's good to see that. Couple of issues I've had, and I know, Ramondo, we talk. I appreciate you taking my late phone calls, but the pools, our pools across the city have just had lots of issues this summer, and I know that, going back to last year, in the middle of COVID, some of those issues kind of started there, but we were hoping to see some of them improve over this year. Specifically in District 1, some of the issues we've been having are around the hours. Sometimes, pop-up storms like yesterday will happen, and then, the pool will close, and then lifeguards are there, and they're waiting, but they can't open because the security guard is not there. And then we just don't seem to be doing a great job of communicating that to people who show up, who have planned their days around, being able to show up at a pool. And then the other part of that is just the general cleanliness of the pools have been issues. And I know, having limited staff with the company that's charged with, with the maintenance, they're also our lifeguards. They're charged with cleaning the pool, maintaining it, and it just seems like we're having some serious challenges there. And sorry I threw a lot at you at one time, but just wanted to see if you could start there.
I appreciate that. And as you know, we have a third-party vendor, American King Pools. This is their last year of their contractual agreement with us, so we're evaluating every day with them on things that you bring up to our attention as well as to the general public. So that's good feedback, and we communicate with them on a weekly, if not daily basis on those issues, and definitely have asked them to address them as we receive feedback.
And do you have, or can you give me an idea of what the general practice should be if the pool closes in terms of how we communicate that?
Well, obviously we would want to get the word out as quick as possible, either through social media, other communications, or flyers, but we haven't done a good job, and we can do better.
Okay. Thank you. And then just around public safety, I know we've had some public safety issues at some of our parks, seem to be seeing some improvements along those lines. One thing that I've been seeing an increase, or hearing about at least in my district, are a number of ATVs, motorcycles, perusing our parks while we've got people, walking through the parks, and it just seems to be a general public safety issue. Have there been any talks with the Atlanta Police Department or within parks about how we might be able to address some of those issues?
Yes, sir. Going back to the pools, and as you know, through the infrastructure bond, we have additional funding that'll go towards improvements to the pools, by the way. So that's a great feather in our cap to make some improvements there. With our relationship with APD and the general security plan for APD, ask the public to call 911 when they're faced with a situation like that, inappropriate or illicit activities or driving, the ATVs through the parks. So we meet with them on a monthly, regular basis as well. So working closely with them to install additional cameras, set up additional patrols to some of those higher volume parks that have higher incident rates as well as higher attendance, where they can go dismounted patrols. Larger parks have more activities. They're getting out there and patrolling them. So we ask the public to call 911, but then also inform and engage not only our elected officials, but also our staff as well.
Sure. And then last question I have is around the numbers of golf. Seems that definitely increasing as someone who has played golf and their favorite course is Browns Mill. I'm happy to see that a lot of people are starting to play. I will say from personal experience, one of the last times that I actually played at Browns Mill, I saw a lot of out-of-town tags, Forsyth County, Gwinnett,
right.
A lot of people from outside of the city limits of Atlanta playing. Are we giving precedent on tee times for City of Atlanta residents to be able to make sure that they can continue to use the golf courses?
Let's first come, first serve. We do have a different rate that we charge out of county or out of city residents, but not prioritizing them on their tee times. It's a first come, first serve.
Okay. I just think it's something that we should definitely take a look at, and just making sure that the city parks are giving precedent to City of Atlanta residents to be able to use our parks as well as our golf courses. So, and then just want to thank you for your service as our commissioner, and
thank you,
and wish you well in your future endeavors.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Winston. Mr. Bond.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner and staff, for your presentation. Follow up on something Mr. Winston mentioned, the cleanliness of the parks. The first job I ever had in my life was working as an assistant lifeguard at the end of what was the John F. Kennedy pool. I worked for a man who was running Camp Best Friends by the name of Eddie Murphy. God rest his soul. He was killed. He was a Fulton County deputy at night and ran Camp Best Friends over there during the day. And as an assistant lifeguard, it was my job, along with a couple of other fellows, to clean the pool and the bathrooms and the toilets. I had never cleaned a toilet. I'd never cleaned a toilet at home. And so Mr. Murphy told me in no uncertain terms, it's good for you.
Builds character, right?
Yeah, it builds a lot of character when you got to clean a dirty toilet. But the cleanliness of the pool is key to the people enjoying it. And so I would encourage you to take the vendor to task in making sure, because I've had that complaint as well as I've moved around the city. And also I wanted to ask specifically around Camp Best Friends. I know that we voted to make the attendance at the pools free. I know we're up to about 2,200, but we have a larger capacity for Camp Best Friends usage. Are we using a sliding scale because of the inflation, or can you elaborate on that?
We do have a sliding scale available for residents of the city of Atlanta to apply for a hardship. So the scale, depending on their hardship and need, we accommodate them so they can get free to low cost to enter into the Camp Best Friends program.
So there's no one being turned away if
No, sir.
go up
No, sir.
for the child care. And then second, related to that, is the quality of the food. I have had complaints, as I did in previous years, about the taste and quality of the food that the children are receiving in Camp Best Friends. Who is that vendor, and how do you all follow up and check, on a regular basis what they're serving? Because I've gotten some complaints for some parents.
I'm glad you said that, Councilmember. I have not heard that. The vendor is Meals Pro for the summer. It's a different vendor than the after-school program. And so I actually have not heard that comment, but we have Alexis Ramey runs that program for us, and that's excellent feedback. We have gone to a new system which meets the health department, where they're all served hot and they stay in a hot container to make sure they meet temperature, and I've heard that's been very successful as well. So Ramondo and I are happy to check on that, but that's the first I've heard of that. We do use a different vendor in the after school than in the summer. So
I didn't hear this complaint until.
Yeah, no, that's good feedback. I appreciate that. Thanks.
And then, okay, the next concern I have is on the pickleball at Washington Park. I know that when I talk with some residents and some folks in the West Side, I can't remember their exact name, but they're the West Side Tennis Association. They were very concerned about pickleball coming to Washington Park, given the unique history and nature of Washington Park as it relates to tennis. They didn't want to see the courts used for really any other purpose, or have the tennis aspect of the tennis center diminished in any way. How long will pickleball be there, and what's the plan for that?
No, it's an excellent question. We actually met with the pickleball group I met with at Washington Park just to make sure they saw the facility. And we have taken a position, as does the USTA, that tennis courts should not be converted permanently to pickleball. We do allow for we have temporary nets that you can put there to play. And we have allowed that. And at this time, we'll continue that as long as there's no damage to the courts. But as a permanent, we've made the position, as probably the residents are speaking of, that the tennis courts will remain tennis courts.
The natatoriums, the hours are, but I know that during the budget hearings it was stated that hours are changing during the summer for the majority of the pools because of Camp Best Friends or what have you. Have the natatorium hours changed at all? Or
They actually don't. They stay the same. We'll be able to expand after Camp Best Friends, which is July 22nd, but we won't be able to add hours until Camp Best Friend is over, which is another, I guess, 3 weeks. But then in that August, they'll be able to expand from there. So we haven't reduced them. There's just that we won't expand them.
Now, the centers are still not open on the weekends, though, right?
They are for rentals. So we started rentals in May, and all centers are open for rentals, but not in a scheduled until the fall.
So I guess like Washington Park Natatorium, the Natatorium at C.T. Martin, are they open and available for people to use on the weekend?
Not as a regular schedule, unless we had a swim meet there this weekend, so we are using them, but not when just walk up. That was planned for when school starts back.
Is that going to come back after the summer, or what?
That's our intention. It is.
And then the last thing is the security. I know that their procurement sent out letters for the procurement to put police officers in the park. When do you all think the legislation will be before the council?
It gets cycle 14, I believe, Jared. I think that's the one coming up, so it's on for cycle 14.
So is that 2 weeks?
I think there's a break, but 2 weeks. I believe that's the next available cycle to submit. I might be off by one, but I think so it's
the next 2 weeks?
It's the one after that. That's correct. Yeah.
Is it the one after that, or is the next 2 weeks, which is?
It's cycle 14. Yeah, I think so, but yeah. That sounds right.
Okay, yes, I've been here 20 years. I've never heard the cycle.
I know.
Been here 5, neither would I.
Yeah, so
I can get the date for you, but I'm almost positive that's the right cycle.
yeah, please, because the summer is going on and people are still using parks. There's still security issues in the parks, and so I mentioned it to you all during the budget hearings that if you do go with another vendor for the pools that also supplies police, that they could also supply additional police.
Yeah, and to your point, I think having this extra option, through that would give us actually 2 options to use.
Right. Because it is an ongoing concern for members of the public. All right, well, I don't want to monopolize, but that's it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Amos.
Got a couple of questions. One is about the equity tool. Every time you heard the word equity, you got to throw equality in there, and hopefully we're not getting them confused, especially when this is a data-driven tool that will be used to bring about equity. My question is, who will enter the data, and is each data point the same when it comes to the parks across the city?
That's correct. We enter it based on any updates that we would have on some of the criteria or determinants. And then, so it'll be equitable across the city. So we try to keep consistent with the scoring matrix. But as we make investments or the data changes over years in terms of health or obesity issues, if those change over time, we'll update those numbers.
And with the data that is being entered through improvements, would that be just for money that's coming through the city of Atlanta as far as bonds or taxes, or do you also include maybe gifts and donations that other parts may receive? That
We try to track and input all funding sources.
Okay. Councilmember Bond left, but thank you about the pickleball question. Definitely getting in the same conversation from the Washington tennis community. I actually had a very brief conversation with the leader of the pickleball group there, expressed to him that their plans was not in the larger community plans. And then Mr. Foster email definitely summed it up for us. So definitely just keep track of that. The tennis open, I know the Atlanta Open is coming up. So hopefully, considering the city is a big sponsor of it, we definitely will have some of our children through our tennis program in that event.
I hope so.
Okay.
I hope, yes, sir.
Last but not least is the after-school programs. As we are doing things like STEM and after-school tutorials, what tie-in do we have with APS? And if it's none, I understand, because I know the two entities will seek to change that. But we need to ensure that what we're doing, I would like to ensure that what we're doing is either reinforcing what they're learning in school or expanding what they're learning in school. So whatever that tie-in is.
Well, obviously, the tie-in is the kids, know, because they both go to APS as well as our Camp Best Friends. So, and then transportation, access to our programs, one and the same. We try to accommodate them as far as their access to our programs as well. But as far as the curriculum, I think it's one and pretty much the same. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks for the question, Councilmember. So we basically, it's an extension of APS's program. And so what we try to do is make them kind of align so that the kids are not getting different information or a different process. So basically what we do is we try to mimic or try to continue whatever the services that APS is providing for our after-school participants. And those are the instructions that we give our tutors.
Thank you. And then last but not least, just had an idea. I know it gets harder and harder to take our children on expeditions or to sea. Is there some type of, as you know, police call recapture programs, is there an alumni recapture program? What I mean by that is there are a lot of people, many up here that has gone through Park and Recs that have come from the city of Atlanta. Is there a program Park and Recs have to invite the mayor, invite me, invite my council member colleagues back to talk to the children that's in Camp Best Friends today, so they can see people that have actually been in and walked these halls, swung in these pools, actually to where they can take their height. So is there any type of program like that?
Thank you. That's a very good question. I'm actually an alumni myself, and so we don't have that program in existence currently, but since you brought it up, that's something that we're going to be planning to initiate in the future, yes.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, I have a few, and then we will be done. To build on a couple of comments that have been stated already, we can go for it.
So sorry, I stepped out for a moment, but Commissioner Dargle, could you elaborate on what's happening? I know that people have mentioned that we are facing a lifeguard shortage and that we outsource the management of our lifeguards for our pools. Is that true?
We do. We have a third-party vendor called American King that does the management, operation, and maintenance of our pools. So we haven't experienced that. Obviously, throughout the country, they've experienced lifeguard shortages, still struggling every day to be sure that they're meeting their obligations for lifeguards. But we've been successful and fortunate enough to have enough lifeguards to be able to open and close our facilities.
Yeah, because, and I apologize again if someone else already brought this up, we were facing issues at Candler Park's pool with having lifeguards that were readily available for the pool to be open, or we found that there weren't enough lifeguards for more than a certain number of people to be let in.
Yeah, we got a slow start. Some of it was due to the weather and some other construction projects, but then there was a lifeguard situation as well. But I think we've got them all opened up now and have enough lifeguards.
Wonderful, thank you. And I believe we were a bit slow on the trainings because they had to cancel a bunch during COVID, which I think also put them behind. Yeah. Well, understood. Thank you.
To your point about it being a national issue, Councilmember Farokhi mentioned to me earlier today that Milwaukee has actually closed all their pools because of staffing challenges, so it's not unique here. Given the when Councilman Winston was talking earlier, every time I fly, I always Google ATL airport security wait time, and then the website pops up and it tells me how long the line is going to be for me to stand in. It seems like it would be helpful, at least for this summer, but maybe moving forward, if there was a place everyone could go that was updated, every 15 minutes or so, that said, here's the pool. Here are the pools that are open, and then here's a pool that's closed, so that folks don't either have to log on to Twitter, which can be a lot to scroll through, or worse, show up with their family and then experience a closed pool. So I will throw that out as a possible idea.
Councilmember, one thing I will mention is this is something that did come up when the pools became free. This is something that I think is fine and something we need to work through, but to your point, we have had guards through attrition. We've lost guards that we started the day with on Memorial Day that have not decided that lifeguarding is a career for them for many reasons that Councilmember Bond may brought up and others. But we have asked them to come up with a policy, especially in the heat that we've had where people are having to stand in line when they're free. We don't have a policy. We've never had one where there might be a pool break, where there can be get back out, get back in line, you can come back in if there's room, that type of thing. And we have asked them, and that's come up just last week, especially with the heat. And so that is something, to your point, I think it is not the go online system, but we are trying to make sure that that is available. So if you go to Candler Park Pool, they don't have as many guards as they normally have. We can take X amount of people, but there is a system in place, so some people aren't in the pool all day and others are out in the parking lot. So we are working through that.
Since you're standing there, you mentioned we can't build enough splash pads. How much does it cost to build a splash pad?
The issue is mainly the bathrooms. All splash pads in Fulton County, DeKalb County have to have the restroom. So if the splash pad itself might be a couple $100,000, but it has to have that restroom as a condition of opening. So that's really the key. I don't want to say that number, but actually Alvin Dodson and our team can pull that together.
Okay. No question here, but in addition to the operational emails we've all been getting, a couple of us have received notes around the desire to lengthen the pool day and the pool season, which is a 2023 conversation, and it takes money, which I'll come back to later, but I just want to speak that into existence here. Golf, just really a comment for you. We do charge different rates for residents versus non. Before he left, J.P. Matzakite had expressed a strong desire to increase the rates for people who don't live in Atlanta, as a way to encourage them to play golf wherever they come from. And so perhaps it is time for us to take another look at that. Tennis, what's the department's current thinking about long-term operations?
Well, we've put together an RFP with the help of USDA and submitted that to the administration for consideration, and they're just looking at the timing of that and releasing that. But we proposed, to go back out for an RFP to operate and manage the 5 tennis centers by a third party.
Okay. And then my last question is around the equity tools / Activate ATL. I'm curious, from both of you who spoke earlier, we passed Activate ATL in December. I'm very proud of that. One of the questions that I think, at least is on my mind, is how much is it going to cost over the next 10 years to activate ATL? And what data do you think this tracker will help provide as we seek to answer that question? For anybody?
We don't know the exact number because land acquisition can vary, so that's one variable. We do know that there's an approximate $700 million maintenance backlog need out there. So getting the exact number of what will it cost us over the next 10 years, we're not actually tracking that. We're tracking, though, the condition of the facility and the improvements needed based on maintenance, and or if it's missing an amenity like a playground, or if we need parkland in a certain district or certain area where we have a park desert, we can track that. So this equity data tool will look at the capital investments that we need, as well as meeting the levels of service needs, and also any social determinants as well.
Okay. I'm going to spend a little bit of time thinking about how we might be able to.
But if you look at the Activate ATL, we can actually track, how many playgrounds we'll need, and we can estimate the cost per playground that way.
Right.
And so we could sort of back into that cost.
Let's do it.
Because the parkland acquisition is a variable number, depends on the land and how we acquire it, and then the, costs, inflation, et cetera, over time.
Yep, indeed. Thank you. Ms. Bakhtiari.
You're almost free, Commissioner, I promise.
It's okay.
You mentioned the public restroom piece, or I'm sorry, I believe Mr. Voss did, for the splash pads. Could you elaborate on that really quickly? I'm sorry, could you say that again?
I think his point was there's a requirement of the state that we have a restroom with a splash pad as part of their the development of a splash pad. So it's required. They have some changing rooms as well as facilities that accommodate restrooms.
Understood. And earlier we were asking in CUC committee about this just reminded me about how, who oversees our public restrooms. Is that under parks?
Yes.
Would you be able to speak to how many public restrooms we have around the city?
Do you have that? Sabina?
Yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, it's 69 indoor and outdoor, but we count them because all of the restroom facilities are free to access and enter along with the pools. But I want to say it's 19 just freestanding, standalone restrooms outside of those. So 69 total, 19
outside. And what is the cost for an additional restroom? What is the cost per restroom if we wanted to build more?
I can get that number for you. It could be $500,000 depending on what you need to do to level the ground and utilities.
Okay.
Or it could be drop in place, a modular kind. So we can get those pricing for you.
If you wouldn't mind, I know that our and I don't put this on parks. I believe the city could have put more priority upon this, but we need more public restrooms certainly, especially with such. My concern always is with such few resources in place for our unsheltered population, not having at least public restrooms for them to access to take care of themselves when we don't offer anything else. And again, that's not on you all. So if you could give me those numbers sooner rather than later, it'd be really helpful. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Winston.
Sorry, we're all making a big splash out of pools today.
That's okay. Hey.
One last one. Obviously,
dad joke to the father twice over.
Yeah. The pool contract. It's month to month right now, is my understanding. And that what's the process for us taking a look at that management contract?
It actually runs to the end of the year so that we could pay our bills because the contract. It crosses over 2 fiscal years, so we want to be able to pay our bills through the end of the year. And so we're evaluating how we should approach that contract next year. Either we would take over management and operation and or rely on a third party to maintain it. So we're still going through that process as we speak.
Okay. And then just to, kind of jump on the point that Councilmember Bakhtiari is making. When you look at restrooms, I think we're getting to even some ADA accessibility issues. For instance, you look at Grant Park, you got a park over 100 acres that has one public restroom. And so that's just one example. We're asking people to have a traverse, large swaths of areas to be able to get to the restroom and, looking at kids and parents pushing strollers and that kind of thing. So these are definitely, I think, as we look at equability across different parks, I think that's also important to look at how that works for people that are dealing with disabilities or may not be as mobile and being able to get to some of our restrooms as well. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Very good. Good point.
All right.
Thank you.
Sounds like we got some restrooms coming to Districts 1 and 5, courtesy of infrastructure bond discretionary dollars. Thank you all for your presentation.
Courtesy of Councilmember Westman.
Mic off. All right. Mr. Jared, would you please take sound item number 1?
Item number 1 is 22C5102, a communication from council members Dustin Hillis, District 9, Andrea L. Boone, District 10, Marcy Collier Overstreet, District 11, Antonio Lewis, District 12, and Keisha Shawn Waits, Post 3 at Large, appointing Mr. Zachary Adrianes to serve as a member of the Atlanta Beltline Affordable Housing Advisory Board. This appointment is for a term of 2 years.
I make a motion to hold until the candidate can be with us next meeting. Motion by Westmoreland, second by Hillis. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. And the vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, that item is held. Colleagues, without objection, there are 7 CDP amendments, and we're going to not take them as a block, but we're going to take them together. So items 2, 3, 28, 29, 30, 31, and 33. Number 2.
Item number 2 is 22-01489, CDP 2211, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 90 and 98 Whiteford Avenue Northeast from the low-density residential 0 to 8 units per acre land use designation to the medium-density residential land use designation and for other purposes.
Yes, hello, Jessica Lavender with the Office of Zoning and Development, and the applicant withdrew this application, so the recommendation is to file.
Motion to file. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Bakhtiari. Please open that vote.
And the vote is open. Would all members please vote? And the vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, that item is filed. Number 3.
Item number 3 is 22-01490, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor to accept and sign a supplemental grant agreement with the United States Environmental Protection Agency in the amount of $3,900,000.00 for the Brownfields Revolving Loan Fund Program, amending the 2022 Intergovernmental Grant Fund budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations in the amount of $3,900,000.00 and for other purposes.
Yes, hello. We have EPA-funded revolving loan fund program where we provide grants to nonprofits and loans to private property to remediate brownfields. And every year we have the ability to apply for supplemental funding. This year, the funding available was increased due to the bipartisan infrastructure law. And we submitted the application in March and received notice in May that the EPA had awarded us $3.9 million. To be used over the next 5 years to provide the grants and loans for brownfield remediation.
Motion to approve. Motion by Westmoreland, second by Hillis.
The vote is open. Would all members please vote? One moment.
It's okay. It's all good. Here we go. 6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Item number 28. Sure. That's fair enough. Can we do 33?
Yes.
Okay, let's do that.
Item number 33, 22-01440, CDP 2220, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 10 Blackland Road Northwest from the low-density commercial land use designation to the office institutional land use designation and for other purposes.
I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second. Motion by Westmoreland, second by Bakhtiari.
And the vote is open. And the vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Item number 28.
Item number 28 is 22-01147, CDP 001, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 4336 Cascade Road Southwest from the single-family residential land use designation to the medium-density residential land use designation and for other purposes.
Yes, hello. This is a 4.8-acre parcel fronting on Cascade Road, and it's being done in conjunction with the rezoning of the parcel to MR3 to build 60 townhomes. With the parcel across the street also having multifamily residential and Cascade Road being an arterial road. This NPU is predominantly single family. We felt, in staff's opinion, that the proposed townhome would bring more housing diversity to the area and meet the needs of a wider segment of the population. Staff recommends approval of this land use amendment.
Move approval. Second by Hillis. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. And the vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Item number 29.
22-01433, CDP 22004, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 790, 804, 830, 840, 860, and 880 Woodrow Street Southwest and 806, 810, and 820 Warner Street Southwest from the industrial land use designation to the mixed-use medium-density land use designation and for other purposes.
This is several parcels that total 7 acres, and as you heard at the Oakland City neighborhood of MPUS in Council District 12, and with the rezoning of the parcel, the applicant is proposing to build 300 multifamily units, 25 townhomes, commercial uses, live work units, and also to rehab a commercial building. This is in the Beltline Subarea 2 plan, and some of the goals of the plan are to encourage economic development, expand housing options, create a mix of uses along the Beltline, and provide employment opportunities. And I know the applicant amended the plan from a purely residential to add non-residential uses. It's in a live-work character area of our comprehensive development plan, and some of the policies are to remediate brownfields, to promote live-work, and also it states that a mixed-use medium density is compatible with compatible land use in this character area. And as you know, we've been promoting retaining the industrial character of the Murphy Crossroads, and the staff felt that this applicant worked to meet the goals of the plan. So we recommend approval of this land use amendment.
All right, colleagues, we received several emails about this topic. We heard a little bit about it in public comment. It's my understanding that the neighborhood, the ZRB, and staff are recommending approval. The MPU, I want to make it clear, recommended denial. After speaking with Councilmember Lewis, who represents this area, I will make a motion to approve. Which is seconded by Mr. Hillis. Please open that vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention. That item is favorable. Item number 30.
Item number 30 is 22-01437, CDP 22017, an ordinance by the Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 2011 and 2015 Memorial Drive Southeast from the single-family residential land use designation to the medium-density residential land use designation and for other purposes.
Ms. Bakhtiari, would you like to make a motion to approve item number 30?
Yeah, I move to approve.
Motion by Bakhtiari, second by Winston. Please open that vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Item number 31.
31 is 22-0-1438, CDP 22-018, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 1058, 1078, 1094, 1108, and 1120 Moreland Avenue Southeast from the mixed-use low-density land use designation to the mixed-use medium-density land use designation and for other purposes.
Ms. Bakhtiari for the motion. Mr. Winston for the second. All right, please open that vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed, and please give us one moment.
Sure. Six yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Thank you. All right, let us go back to item number 4.
Item number 4 is 22-0-1508, an ordinance by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond to amend Part 3, Appendix A, Chapter 1, to amend Section 104.8 to clarify and affirm the Director of the Office of Buildings Authority as the city's chief building official to revoke certificates of occupancy for violations of the building code and violations of other land development codes and regulations and for other purposes.
Mr. Bond.
Motion to hold for 2 weeks' time certain.
Motion by Bond, which I will second. Please open that vote.
The vote is open. And the vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is held. I'm not quite sure if Mr. Lewis wanted to be here for item number 5. It says he's to speak, so we're going to come back to that one. If we can do number 6.
Item number 6 is 22-R3856, a resolution by Council Members Byron D. Amos and Michael Julian Bond requesting that the memorial statue constructed by the Firefighters Union to honor fallen Atlanta firefighter Stephen Solomon be placed in the Rodney Cook Senior Park and for other purposes.
Mr. Amos.
Motion to approve.
Oh, motion by Amos, second by Bond. Please open that vote.
The vote is open. And the vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Item number 7.
Item number 7 is 22-R3862, a resolution by Council Members Liliana Bakhtiari, Michael Julian Bond, Matt Westmoreland, Keisha Shawn Waits, Jason Winston, Amir Faroki, Byron D. Amos, Jason Dozier, Alex Swan, Howard Shook, Dustin Hillis, Andrea L. Boone, and Marcy Collier Overstreet, authorizing the City of Atlanta to donate a total amount not to exceed $500,000 and 0 cents to the Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundation pursuant to Section 6-306 of the City of Atlanta's Charter to support AVLF's Access to Legal Counsel pilot program that will provide eviction defense services to eligible City of Atlanta residents, authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into any necessary agreements to effectuate the donation, to authorize the chief financial officer or his designee to make the donation authorized hereby from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
Motion to hear from Ms. Bakhtiari.
Also to take a moment about what a big deal this is. And that would be the first city in the South to do this. And I'm going to say once we pass it, not if. So move to approve.
Second. Motion by Westmoreland, second by Winston. Please open that vote.
The vote is open. Would all members please vote? And the vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Ms. Bakhtiari is right. We often speed through good work here, and that is some of it. Back to item number 5.
Item number 5 is 22R3854, a resolution by Councilmember Antonio Lewis to encourage all the professional sports franchises of Atlanta to find every way possible to partner together with the Department of Parks and Recreation to support and strengthen youth sports programming in the city so as to amplify the positive benefits attained through participation in youth sports and for other purposes.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes, and thank you, Chairman. This paper was to basically do what the Braves have been doing for so long. I know the City of Atlanta used to have a partnership with the Falcons, used to have a partnership with the Hawks, and the Braves have continued their partnership in which they pay for all of the sports uniforms for our students. That's the gloves, the bats, and the entire uniforms. We want to find ways in which the City of Atlanta, the sports partners, could partner up with these parks and recreation centers in different ways. We do know that there are partnerships that the City of Atlanta has paid for. For example, we have an exclusive dealings with the Atlanta Hawks in which we pay them to make our jerseys, and they give us free tickets to games. I want to renegotiate some of these things, so that's why I put this paper together. Thank you.
Good deal. Any other comments or questions? There we go. Motion by Winston, second by Bakhtiari.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Item number 8.
Item number 8 is 22R3959, a resolution by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend Ordinance 20R4752 to designate account numbers from which all work contracted in accordance therewith would be charged to and paid from for the services agreement with the Path Foundation as authorized under 20R4752 for the purpose of providing the maintenance, design, construction, renovation, and repair by the Path Foundation of certain trails and associated parks and green spaces where parks property is procured, leased, and are managed by the city in an amount not to exceed $75,000.00 and for other purposes.
Any questions or comments? All right, I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Bakhtiari.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Item number 9.
Item number 9 is 22R3960, a resolution by Community Development Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into an amendment to extend the term of the existing lease agreement with Home Park Learning Center, Inc. for a term of 5 years beginning October 31, 2022 through October 30, 2027 to allow for the continued maintenance, operation, and provision of child care programming services at the Home Park Recreation Center and for other purposes.
Mr. Voss, I believe we have a question from Mr. Amos.
Just trigger a question that came up during the last cleanup. You may be aware there used to be or was a rail on the steps outside that goes from the Learning Center to the grassy area right beside it. I know they was asking about that because right now a child can go beyond the rail and it possibly could be a liability. So if you could just follow up with them on this, and then I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Amos, which I will second. Please open the vote.
1 moment. Okay, the vote is open.
Yeah.
And the vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Item number 10.
Item number 10 is 22R3857, a resolution by council members Byron D. Amos and Michael Julian Bond urging the mayor or his designee to conduct a feasibility study to provide recommendations regarding the establishment of a unit of park rangers to serve as designated enforcement to ensure the safety of City of Atlanta parks and for other purposes. This item was favorable by Public Safety Legal Administration.
Mr. Amos.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Bond. Motion by Amos, second by Bond. Please open that vote.
The vote is open. And the vote is closed.
Thank you much. On to a couple more held items. We are almost done. Item number 25.
Item number 25 is 22-0-1421, an ordinance by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into Amendment Number 3 of the amended and restated agreement listed here, Programs to Care for Homeless Populations with Partners for Home, Inc., on behalf of the executive offices to extend the term through June 30, 2024, to add funding for continued care of the homeless residents of the city to be funded by the U.S. Department of Treasury, American Rescue Funds in an amount not to exceed $6,200,000.00, and to modify the agreement to reflect terms required for use of the American Rescue Plan funds and for other purposes.
Ms. Brooks.
Thank you. Good afternoon again, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. LaShondra Burks, Deputy Chief Operating Officer for Mayor Andre Dickens. The ordinance that's before you asks that you approve $6.2 million to Partners for Home, who, of course, many of you know is our continuum of care, in order to service our homeless population. Ms. Catherine Marshman is here, the CEO of Partners for Home, who can answer some very specific questions if needed around this funding. But many of you, many council members, participated in a press conference that Mayor Dickens held a few weeks ago regarding our release of our point-in-time count for our homeless population. And in that, we discussed this particular $6.2 million fundings, which was being held in this committee at the time. We have received our Tranche 2 funding, and what I would ask is that this paper move forward on condition. We're working with Finance to finalize the account streams, and that's all that's needed to be added here.
I will make that motion at the appropriate time. Any questions or comments for Ms. Brooks or Ms. Marchman / Vassal?
Vassal, I'm so sorry. Mrs. Vassal.
I forgot Dustin's name earlier. Happens to all of us. Evan? All right. I will make a motion to move forward on condition of receiving the appropriate count strings by Tuesday's meeting. Second by Bakhtiari.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable on condition. Item number 34.
Item number 34 is 22-0-1450, an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland authorizing the City of Atlanta to donate American Rescue Plan Act funds to the Urban League of Greater Atlanta pursuant to Section 6-306 of the City of Atlanta's Charter in an amount not to exceed $1 million in order to administer grants to the youth-serving nonprofit organizations to increase capacity to serve students disproportionately impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic and for other purposes.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. I'm Janine Lewis. I'm the Senior Director of Youth Engagement in the Mayor's Office. I lead all of the initiatives for children, youth, and young adults. And I'd just like to give you a few points about the proposed youth development grant. The purpose of the grant, in partnership with Urban League of Greater Atlanta, is to empower and amplify existing community-based organizations who have already began the very hard work of servicing youth in their communities. Purpose of the grant is to ensure that those organizations receive technical assistance. They may use the funding for capital improvements. They may use the funding for resources for the current students that they are serving, and also the ultimate intention of the grant is to build the capacity of our community-based organizations, understanding that the rescue plan dollars are not evergreen, so that by this time next year, those community-based organizations are not only equipped to contend with larger nonprofits to serve our city's youth, but that the youth that they serve receive a higher quality of resources.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Ms. Lewis? All right, I'll make a motion to approve on condition that we receive the requisite funding account strings by Tuesday's meeting.
Second.
Second by Mr. Amos.
Sounds good. Thanks.
The vote is open. Would all members please vote? Thank you. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable on condition. Number 35.
Number 35 is 22-01455, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Dozier as substituted by the Community Development Human Services Committee, authorizing the amendment of the 2021 Annual Action Plan to accept an additional award of American Rescue Plan funds made available to the city through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's Home ARP grant to assist individuals or households who are homeless, at risk of homelessness, and other vulnerable populations by providing housing, rental assistance, supportive services, and non-congregate shelter to reduce homelessness and increase housing stability, and to amend the Home Investment Partnerships Program Fund budget by anticipating and appropriating $7,991,553.00 and authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to substantially amend the city's 2020 through 2024 consolidated plan to fund various projects and enter into agreements with project sponsors to provide tenant-based rental assistance, supportive services, acquisition, and rehabilitation using home ARP funds and for other purposes.
Colleagues, we will need to move this forward without any recommendation for a public hearing to be held on July 5th at the full council meeting. But before that, are there any questions or comments? All right. I'll make the motion to move it forward on without recommendation. Second by Bakhtiari.
The vote is open. And the vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Last item is number 36.
Number 36 is 22R3709, a resolution by Council members Matt Westmoreland and Amir Faroqi expressing the support of the Atlanta City Council for the Center for Global Health Innovation and for other purposes.
I will make a motion to bring forward the substitute. There is a second by Ms. Bakhtiari. Please open that vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute is before us. It struck the last resolve clause and made the one before it the be it finally resolved clause. If there are no questions or comments, I will make a motion to approve on substitute. Second by Ms. Bakhtiari.
The vote is open. One moment. Would the committee mind doing a voice vote for this?
We do not. Mr. Hillis, how would you like to vote? Mr. Winston? Aye. Ms. Bakhtiari?
Aye.
Mr. Amos?
Aye.
Mr. Bond?
Aye.
Westmoreland votes aye as well.
Okay, well, the vote is closed, and it's going to be 6 yeas and 0 nays.
We have double voted on this item. It is 6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable on substitute. Any general remarks? Mr. Bond?
Thank you. I have two announcements. One, the Hello Fresh Grab and Go will be tomorrow, Wednesday the 29th, at the Hosea Helps headquarters at 2545 Forest Hills Drive at 2:30 p.m. And so we expect a lot of folks to show up. The last time we were there, we had 1,100 cars in the line. So if you know someone who needs it, chances are you do, please pass the word along. And we also want to ask if we could just take a moment of silence for the passing of the great Mitch Faulkner, who is a prominent radio personality. His good friend Simon preceded him in death 6 months ago with the same ailment. He lost his battle with cancer yesterday. So if we had the opportunity as a council last term or the term before to honor him for all of his good works around the city of Atlanta and all that he's done in the community, not just being a radio host. He was a great community activist, an Air Force veteran, coming out of that great tradition out of the Air Force for radio and broadcast communications. So he made a tremendous impact and also helped to promote many of the artists that came out of the Atlanta community. Most notably, the first was Raheem the Dream back in the mid-'80s. He broke format on KISS 104 to play Raheem the Dream's hip-hop song that elevated him into at another level across the country. So, and he's just been a great humanitarian, a great brother, and a great friend. If we could just take a moment, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments? All right. One time last term, we ended this meeting at 2:30 after starting it at 1:30. I will note it is 2:30 in Birmingham, and we are adjourned. Thank you.